I can see this now. Now we're good. I think that was it.
I thought you did that last time, though.
I did, but we couldn't. I guess we couldn't edit that. You can't change that once it's set, and then it wouldn't go back. But now it's good. Or it seems like it's good.
Seems. Maybe it's wrong.
Yeah, you can hear us now?
Yay.
Success. All right, good. Thanks, Chicken Hawk. Thanks, Sergio. Yeah, we're back. So, not sure what it was. It was a setting in the Go Live when we went to go set it up. Apparently, I must have missed it the first time around, and I didn't have the right mic selected, and then it didn't like what we went back to. But I would have thought that it would have been okay when we took that out. That it would have gone back, but it didn't. So, sorry about that. Sorry about the hassle and the delay. But
it's getting old. Worse with devices.
Yeah, I got to wear my glasses already. So it's getting worse. I should just let him manage all that. Maybe it would actually work. Yeah, so what I was saying in the beginning that you guys couldn't hear, it was that it's snowing here. So we're sitting in the chilly garage, and thankfully, with it all insulated now, and a couple of these little electric heaters going, it's warm enough in here. It's like high 50s, I think, at this point. So it's warm enough that we can sit here for a little bit, and it's sort of comfy. But it's snowy and cold outside here, and so. Just reminding me more and more that it's the wintertime. So I've got the new hoodie on, the new red hoodie. This is about as festive as I get for Christmas season. So this is my red for Christmas. But Declan's way more festive. He's got
the dolphin sweater.
He's got the ugly sweater going on, the ugly Christmas sweater. Oh, I actually just got a 2002 Camaro. Nice. Sweet.
See, I was right. He did read lips.
Oh, so Brian was messing with me. Yeah, nice. Okay. I see. What engine are we putting in the IROC-Z? Yeah, so there's been, I think, a little bit of confusion over this because I think there's some new folks to the channel and some folks that are just popping in. So what we're putting into the IROC is the 350 out of the Chevelle. So the Chevelle has, actually, I should clarify this. The Chevelle has what I understand to be a 350. I've never taken the heads off. I've never taken the bottom end off to measure the crank or the arms or the connecting rods. So I can't validate that. The number that is on the casting for the block should be a 350. However, I forget what the number is, but that specific number technically for 1 year, I think in 69 was a 327. So it should be a 350. This 350 is what's going to go into the IROC next to Declan. So that would be what we're putting in there.
It's 80 in Tampa.
80 in Tampa. Yeah, just like rub that in.
Yeah, but they don't get no snow. So
yeah, and
and it's holidays. So.
And it doesn't often get to 105 degrees with 120% humidity here either. So we got that going for us, which is sometimes good. So I like the seasons in New England. I do appreciate having.
I appreciate the 2 weeks of orange before it falls off and it's dead.
I like the seasons. I like having the fall. I like having the spring. And the winter's typically not terribly bad. I will tell you one thing. I think one of the things that's going to make this winter go by much faster is the need to get this car, the IROC, out and running. Having a list of projects that we got to go after is really making me kind of stress out. It's going to make the time go by fast because every weekend that goes by that we don't make major progress, I'm going to freak out. DC Sound Op, happy holidays to you too, bud. Thanks for following. Thanks for being a fan. And yeah, I love the snow too. Part of me does. The part of me that's responsible for snow removal doesn't really like it. And it's kind of a pain to drive around in. So First snow of the season here, first significant snow of the season here. They're not doing a good job keeping the roads clear. They're a mess. They were a mess all afternoon. It looks like they're still a mess now. So yeah, not a giant fan of that. I got a little talking piece here. This is the busted piston and rod. So I came down here to the basement, to the garage to clean up a little bit earlier in the week, and I decided to clean this up because my intention is to turn this into a desk clock. So we're going to get a little clock kit and put it. I actually bought a clock kit, but it's the wrong size. So we're going to get a clock kit, put this in there, and this is going to be my detonation clock, because this is really, once I cleaned it up too, it's even more horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the damage in here, now that you can see it all clean, it's pretty catastrophic. That is just hellacious. It has really just come apart. Pretty awful. But it'll make a cool clock. So I'm kind of psyched to get that going. I'm gonna have to, I think I have to glue the pin in place, the wrist pin, because this is aluminum, so I'm not gonna weld that. So, but it'll be cool.
Was it going to freshen up the 350?
The busted piston, should give it away in a contest. Yeah, I would give it away if I didn't so desperately want to have this bent up thing sitting on my desk. It's too catastrophic to give away. Maybe what we'll do is, maybe we have 7 other pistons and connecting rods, because when we do rebuild,
But those are normal.
They're normal. But when we rebuild that one, they're not going to go back in it. We'll get new connecting rods and pistons. So we'll take those 7 and we'll clean those up. I'll make a clock with one of those, maybe, and maybe we'll give one of those away.
Sign
but
it.
I like that idea, Axel. So that's something we'll do. Yeah, my hoodie about matches the IROC. Yeah, we tried to do that pretty carefully. I can't really pick the color of the hoodie. They're sort of pre-existing colors, but I did want to go red to try to get red for the IROC. Yeah, MT. We're going to freshen up the 350. Yes. So the intention is to try to do as little to it as humanly possible. We're trying to keep the 350 sort of on a budget. So to deal with this, I know there's been like a lot of the ideas that come across that people are tossing are kind of cracking me up, because like somebody said, just put a Coyote motor in it. I mean, the suggestions that we get, and I know a lot of them are joking, but some of them are serious about what we should do in there that are just like dropping major money. They just kind of crack me up. So we're not necessarily planning on doing anything with the 305 right away. But we are planning on rebuilding that 305, because it looks like, based on the measurements that I took, that the 305 is going to be savable. So we'll pursue that, and that'll be like a background project, but I don't want it to get in the way of what we're doing right now. So the important thing is we want to get this 350 moved over into the IROC, so that we can get this thing up and running, so that he can drive it, so that he can learn on it. I think it's pretty important that while he's learning to drive on the car he's going to drive as much as he can. So we want to get that in pretty quick. There's some stuff that we know we're going to need to do to it. I know that I have to take the intake off. The intake leaks right now on the back side. Whoever put that on, I think it was an engine build place when they did it. Like one of those sort of generic engine rebuilders that did like remanufactured engines for like stock cars. They put those rubber or silicone gaskets in for the intake, the ones that like literally no one uses. And it's no surprise it's leaking out the back. So I have to take that off and fix that. We're going to do a leak down test on the 350 to make sure that we don't have a significant leakage across the cylinders. I'm hoping we don't. We're hoping we don't have to tear the thing apart. And we're definitely curious as to what's going on with the oiling that's going on. So I think if we find that there's no real compression loss, we're probably still going to change all the valve seals in that, because that's probably where the oil's going. And then we'd call it a day. But if we get compression loss or significant compression loss, then we'll have to look at what to do, and probably be talking about like rings and stuff like that. So try to freshen it up for as little as we can get away with, and start moving forward. Mike Temple saying rod clocks with powder coated rods. So Mike's a buddy of mine. For those who don't know, Mike's the guy who helped us out when we did the engine pull on the IROC. He's the guy in the hoodie who was shy about being on camera. Mike just bought some stuff to do powder coating in his house. He's got like an oven in his garage. So we were joking about getting some powder and powder coating the pistons and rods to make those clocks. So I think he's itching for an opportunity to use the powder coating stuff. I am too, actually. Roy Cervantes, what's up? Yeah, yee. Our yee guy. How's it going, Roy? It's good to see you tonight.
Oliver wants to mention the low taper fade meme by subtly suggesting massive and crazy. He wants me to say, you know what else is massive? The low taper fade. That's what he probably wants me to say. Most of the people aren't even going to know what that means. He's going to be like the only one that knows what that means.
Well, all right. So there you go, Oliver. That was just for you.
Yeah, low taper fade just for Oliver Bush.
First car I ever bought was a red 87 Camaro in Germany when I was in the Army. Oh, that's cool.
That's some lore. Yep.
Yeah. First to drive me left the road, the snow gets stuck in a ditch. Oh, no.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, we are at a place where that can happen.
Yeah.
But it's actually, people have asked about that, like that this is going to be your daily driver and, driving it around the snow. And I think somebody else sort of commented that he's going to be driving like a crazy person because he's a teenager. But what I have found, it's not like when we were young. Like when I was 16, I drove everywhere and drove all over the place. It's harder for kids in Massachusetts anyway to do that now. With the junior operator laws, they're really strict. So once he gets his license, until he's 18, he can't drive with anybody else who's under 18 in the car unless they're a family member.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I thought you had to have if you had a license, you could do it.
Nope. Once you get your license, you still can't. And not until you're off your junior operator's license. They want you paying attention. You can't use a phone in the car. Even if the phone's like in a holder and hands-free, you can't. You can't use any secondary electronic devices. So you can't even use like a GPS that's suction cup to the windshield. Like that's not legal.
Is that why we're the sissy state?
Nanny state. Yeah.
Nanny state.
So there's a bunch of restrictions. They're all designed to keep kids safe. I'm not going to debate all that stuff here.
Yeah,
but
it's overall good for us, but still.
The net result of it is that it really kind of clamps down on how much kids are driving around, because they can't, like, even if all his friends have driver's licenses, they'd all have to drive individually to places, right? They can't pile into one car and just go someplace. So it just means they drive less. Like Dana barely drove anywhere, right? It's pretty much.
Yeah, but there's a little bit more for that.
True. But it's basically, it's back and forth to school, and probably back and forth to the part-time job you're going to have to buy your gas.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to be doing either one of those in a snowstorm. So I don't think you'll be driving it a ton in the bad weather. And we've got the garage to keep it in even when the weather's nasty. So we're going to keep an eye on it, but I don't think it'll be that big a deal. It's not too crazy. Mary Lou, Merry Christmas to you too. And Chicken Hawk, yes, you did spell Declan right. It's Declan. Yep.
Should have gotten a better name.
Hey, so this is your question, Stefan.
Okay. What do you want to do with the inside of the IROC? So I care more about keeping the outside and I guess the engine more original. And I guess I just want to make the inside comfortable. Like, I'm okay with making it more modern looking because I think I like the look of the classic cars that people modernize and customize because I think that they look cool, especially since some people aren't going to appreciate the oldness of it. And I don't know the lore of the car yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I would be someone who would appreciate it as much as I should. So
what kind of interior stuff would you see yourself doing that would be like more modern or comfortable? Like what do you think about when you think about that?
Honestly, I don't even know because I have like pictures in my mind, but I don't have like a way to express the words from the pictures.
Oh, okay. So what about like a radio?
Yeah, like the radio would be a big thing.
You would
or
want like a touchscreen radio and
yeah,
all
like
that jazz,
making
like
it
the
more.
newer stuff. Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine I would like actually that probably makes sense, given the whole laws about using extra accessories. It's probably the smartest way to be able to get you to have maps in the car is if you
Yeah.
have something that has CarPlay, and you can pull that off. Yeah.
If you don't have it. Yeah.
Double in stereo with GPS. Yeah, I think that's probably what we would end up doing. It's a double in now, right? So and it wasn't installed. It's sitting out, and I think it's a tape deck. So we'll still keep it. I still think about this car as like someday this probably goes back to original. We don't want to bubba it up too much, but anything like what Declan and I had talked about from the very beginning is that like he's a caretaker of this car. And so for all intents and purposes, like it's his while he's driving it. But it is ultimately mine. So we're going to have sort of agree on the things that we do to the car. But if it's bolt-on stuff that, you can take out and put back in, like I don't have a problem with it. So I don't care what we do with the radio as long as we're not hacking up the dash. So that's all good, whatever he wants to do. I'm fine with that. So.
When are you taking the 350 yet?
When y'all taking the 350 out of the Chevelle? That's a good question. So the current plan is after Christmas. So today was my last day of work until the 6th of January.
And my last day of school.
Your last day of school, yeah. So we get some time off. So once we get to the other side of the Christmas, I think we've got stuff to do, I think, until the 27th for like family stuff. And then after that, it's pretty clear. It's also, I think, when the weather's supposed to be getting a little bit warmer. And when I say a little bit, I mean like in the 40s, not like in the 20s. So the plan that I have right now is to pull it in that week. And hopefully between now and then, I can just keep coming out here and doing a little bit at a time to get it ready for the pull. So, disconnecting all the cables, pulling the drive shaft out, doing all that stuff so that when it comes time to pull it, we have to spend as little time with it rolled outside as possible. And we can just yank that motor and go. So that is the plan. And then once we get that pulled, that engine's going to be sitting right where the laptop is sitting now, probably on the stand for us to do our work to it and get it cleaned up. So that's the current plan. Then it'll probably take us a little bit to get that engine freshened up. That'll, I'm sure, be a few videos of us sort of working on that engine and sort of tearing things down. We're going to have to get planful about how we do that. So,
planful?
Yeah, because I want to make sure that we do things in stages so that we can film it and keep things orderly. Because unlike the 305, admittedly, once we realized how lunch that was, once I realized how bad that piston was, I kind of threw caution to the wind in terms of disassembling that, because I realized there was no way on earth that just went back together at any point. Like that was going to be a rebuild. So I didn't pay attention to keeping anything straight. I didn't keep anything orderly. And we just sort of pulled things apart and sort of didn't care. I can't do that with this because we are going to move this straight over. So this will be a much more careful, I don't want to say tear down because we're not fully tearing it down, but we'll be more careful. Colt has an 87 black IROC. Yeah, these look good in black too. I'm glad we got the red, but the black is pretty cool. What other cool cars have I owned over the years?
I've had a little takes. That's about it.
And some remote control stuff.
Yeah, the remote control one.
Those have been your
that
coolest.
red one that I got for Christmas.
So the last car that I had before the Chevelle, I had a 98 Mustang GT convertible. That was a fun little car. I had a good time with that. That was like my first foray back into having a car since before we got married.
It smelled like smoke though.
And that was fun. I thought it was going to be more fun than it was. The kids did not like driving around in the convertible. So it was really only me ever riding around in that car. And ultimately, I just found that it was at its limit. I couldn't really do those Mustang motors. those modular motors, you can't really do too much to those to spice them up without spending a ton of money. And that's just kind of turned me off to it. So when I got the Chevelle, I ended up getting rid of the Mustang. Before that, the last cool car I had was my first car, which was a 70s Chevelle.
Yeah, you had some pretty boring cars.
I had a lot of boring cars after that. Yeah.
My favorite car that you've had is the minivan, because I had a lot of memories with the minivan.
Yeah, you would. That was like your whole childhood car, right? Was the minivan. But it's definitely not a cool car. Yeah, so the Chevelle that I had originally, I think I've posted pictures of it. I should definitely post some more. Maybe we'll do like a little video short of that or something where I have the pictures of that car. But it was in way, way worse shape than what this one is. But similar deal. It was a Malibu that somebody had thrown some SS stuff into, including the floor shift. And it was my first car, so I loved it, but it was a pile. So that one I had we got that when I was, I think, 16, and had that until I stopped driving it once I got out of college, I think, because it was just falling apart on us. And I think my dad got rid of it like right before we got married and moved into a house. So yeah, had that for a while and missed it tremendously, which is why I'm back to having this. This is sort of nostalgia for me. And yeah, that Chevelle was my favorite. That Chevelle, I mean, I think that holds special memories because of the time in my life when I had it. So that's what makes it special. But this one's way nicer by a lot. Third generation Camaro guy. Did you go with an FI Tech fuel injection unit? No, we haven't gone with any fuel injection units yet. So the crate engine that's sitting in the basement now, about 15 feet away, that's carbureted with a Holley 4-barrel. This one has a Street Demon, which Holley also makes. That's, I think, a 600 or a 625. That's probably going to stay on there for now. What we talked about, and it's still possible, is maybe putting like a Holley Sniper 2 on the Chevelle 350 when we move it into the IROC. It's a fair amount of money. It's probably going to be $1,200 when all is said and done to move that over. But the only reason we're really sort of thinking about that is it's probably more day-to-day reliable as a day-to-day driver to throw that on there. So we'll see. That'll all come down to a money question at some point. And the thinking with that was, even when we get the 305 running and we decide to, bring this thing back to sort of original and put that back in it, the Sniper wouldn't go to waste because I could always put it on the crate engine that would then be in the Chevelle. So it would have some legs to it. And Brian Wilkerson had a 68 Camaro. 68 is my favorite, Brian. I don't know why. Something about it. I always liked the 68s. I always gravitated to them. Everybody had 69s, so that always seemed like it was like almost too common to me. And I didn't care for the vent window on 67s, but that sleek look of no vent window on the 68.
Okay, this is the one. That's the one I thought it was.
Yeah, sweet car. Love it. That's absolutely my favorite. Got a soft spot for it. Would probably be that, or a Tri-5 Chevy would probably be one of the two other cars that I would want to own besides this one, if I was able to get there. Colt saying, love to follow son work on the project. Yeah, thanks.
3 in January and working on the car.
Nice. Getting them started young. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been fun working with him. I think there's been days when he hasn't found it fun. But I think there's always times like that.
There's always boring things that you'll encounter. You just have to work with it, though.
Yeah, you have to kind of get through it. I mean, there was always times when I remember working on even my own car while it was running with my dad. There were still times when I just didn't want to be out there and didn't want to be doing the stuff. And it's like pretty normal. So, but he really doesn't complain. So I can't really gripe about it too bad. He's out there getting the stuff done. I think the hardest part for us now is finding the time
to
where
work
we
on.
both have time
Yeah.
together to come down here and work and get something done. And that's what's been actually really, really tricky the last few weeks is schedules have just been such that if I've got time to come down here, he doesn't, or vice versa. And we just can't get down here together to work. That's why some of the videos that have come out lately have just been me, because we just can't get the time together to come down. Do you have experience with the 3800 Series 2 engine? So it's in my Camaro. Not as exciting as a V8, but it's the solid. I don't. So I'm guessing that's the 6-cylinder. I don't have any experience with those too much at all. We have a 6-cylinder in my truck, my Silverado, but I don't really work on that one, so don't have a ton of experience with those actually.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite car like manufacturer?
I mean, I do and I don't. So I'm not a dyed in the wool like Ford, Chevy, Mopar guy. I tend to be. I would identify as a Chevy guy.
That's kind of what I thought you were.
I'm a Chevy guy, but I'm not like you're not going to find me with one of those like Calvin peeing on a Ford emblem stickers on my door. I don't feel that strongly about it. I think in general, I find that there's very few. I'm talking from like the classic era, right? Of like even pre-war up till like let's say like 1980, 85.
Pre-war.
Yeah, like the 30s, like cars from the 30s and stuff. I generally gravitate towards Chevy. I don't have any of those that I really look at and go, oh, I don't like that. I think they all look pretty good. But I don't feel that way about every other manufacturer. Like there's an awful lot of Fords that I look at and go, just that's not my speed. I don't really like it.
Porsches. Like I like them sometimes, but there's a lot more that I look at and I was like, why is that so expensive?
I think Porsche is a deal where it's really more about
the name,
the driving experience than it is the way the car looks. So the thing about
because they're like powerful.
It's not even that they're powerful; they're exceedingly well balanced and just powerful enough. So they're like I haven't driven them, but everybody that I've talked to who's like a big Porsche fan who has Porsches, it's the driving experience of them that they really go crazy for. It's not necessarily.
I don't think they're extremely like as expensive as other.
Depends on which ones.
Like yeah, well, that kind of goes with that. Well, like all Ferraris are going to be expensive.
Yeah, there's even. I mean, now the market's gone kind of crazy on everything now. But like I remember, back in it was probably like 10 or 15 years ago, you could get like the Tom Selleck Magnum PI, the 308 GT GTS. Those cars, you could find those for like not like cheap money, but you could find them for like 25K, 30K used and in really, really good shape. Because Ferrari made so many of those, they were V8s, and they were just like the run-of-the-mill Ferrari car. And then somewhere along the lines, they got really popular again, and now you can't touch them again. So if you get it at the right time, sometimes you can get a cheap one and look in the right spot. But inevitably, all those big-name cars go pricey fast.
What I think happened to me with Ferrari is, when you like remember something as a kid, and then as you grow older, you remember it but more extreme, and it's almost like telling somebody a story and then they tell it more extremely.
Yeah,
I think at one point I slightly liked Ferrari, and then the next year I was like, I really like Ferrari, and I was like, I love Ferrari. It's like, no, I think I only started out with a hatred for Lamborghini, and then the only exotic cars I knew was Lamborghini and Ferrari. I was like, well, if I don't like Lamborghini, I must like Ferrari.
Yeah, so I think probably Chevy guy first. I mean, just general GM. Probably overall, I'm not like, I don't know as much about like the Pontiacs and Buicks and stuff like that. I don't have as easy a time like picking apart those motors and identifying those, but like them just the same. It's all pretty much the same kind of design principles. So I dig all of those. And then lately, in the last, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I've got the Mopars have grown more on me. I used to hate them. I used to think they were really ugly. And now they've gotten to this place where they're like, they're ugly good looking. And I think I appreciate them more for just how crazy they were, especially in the muscle car era. Just doing absolutely like mental stuff that like now I look at and go, man, they had big round ones to do that stuff. So yeah, but I don't have a crazy devotion to any of them.
No devotion.
Yeah, I just have a lot more experience with the Chevy GM stuff than I do with anything else.
And it was your first car was Chevy, right?
Yeah, and my dad was a Chevy guy. My stepfather was actually a Ford guy. So like my mom always had Fords growing up. So she always had like Ford station wagons, and that's what was always at home. That could be why I didn't really like the Fords as much, because all my experience with Fords was in massive oversized sedans and station wagons when I was a kid, and they were not exactly sexy. That could be part of it. Yeah, GM parts changeability is a good thing. I think Mopar has that going for it too. I mean, Ford does as well with like Lincoln and but GM's kind of got it more hands down. There is a little bit more widespread, I guess. Yeah, I do like the Mopar stuff. The Challengers and the Chargers, I mean, they're not making them technically now anymore, right? They're going to come back with just electrics.
Oh, I'm sure everybody's going to love that.
I mean, they can still do it right.
Well, I think they'll do it right, but I don't think they'll care. I don't think the people that like the Chargers are going to.
You might be surprised. I think the thing that people really rail against with the electric stuff is that it just doesn't come with the performance and the looks.
But it's like you're not even going to use 100% of the car. Like, if you really like the Chargers, then you should just be happy that the Charger's back and not dead forever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of hate the leaning to the electric stuff, like it's going to make gas go away. Gas is not going away for a long time. It's going to be there for a while. We're stuck with it, even if you don't like it or like it, it's stuck with it for a while. It's built in the infrastructure so much. It's going to take forever for us to get out of it. So I don't think it's really going away anytime real soon. But yeah, some people get really bent about electric stuff. I kind of don't care. It just doesn't.
I think so.
Fit me.
I think electric's better. I mean, obviously, I'm not super into. Like, I was born when electric started going, so it's like.
Axel Cini heard they're going to make a hybrid charger and not just a straight EV.
That
Yeah,
would
they
make
might.
sense.
And I know that Stellantis just got their CEO just stepped down. They got a new CEO moving in. So they may end up sort of changing their plan too. I know like Toyota kind of did that. And so a couple of companies have sort of backpedaled a little bit on how hardcore they were going with EV, and they're sort of straddling now and going a little bit more towards, well, maybe we do hybrid. So that's still entirely possible that it could go there. Honestly, the electric stuff, I would miss the sound of an engine for sure.
That's the one thing I understand.
But the torque on demand with electric motors is insane. I mean, there's no build up to the torque. It's there in a second. You can't not like that. But I can't wrap my head around driving an electric and feeling awesome about it from a performance standpoint. I just don't. It doesn't feel the same to me. So I can completely imagine myself like commuting in it. And like taking it back and forth to work, and like if I had like a Ford Lightning right now, driving it back and forth to work, it would probably be the smartest thing for me to do, because I don't really drive that car long range or anything. But it's just not in the cards for me right now. I'm not desperate to do it, but I don't ever want to get rid of these. I still want to wrench on these and still like driving it around. So I'm not giving that up anytime soon.
Got a lot of electric haters in the chat.
Yeah, that's not really surprising. I mean, this is a car channel, so why would these guys want to see electrics? Yeah.
Pass on batteries.
Pass on battery. Yeah, the batteries is like, that's actually something a lot of people don't like to talk about, but those batteries are freaking heavy and dangerous. I don't know if you've ever seen those battery fires, but
have you seen the gasoline fires?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Is that all that crap will get fixed in time, because you don't have to go back very far with the history of internal combustion engine motors to see how bad they used to be. I mean, internal combustion engine cars used to be pretty awful with all kinds of really dangerous safety issues that just got lessened and lessened and lessened over the years because they got better and better at it. EVs are still pretty young at that, so give them enough time and they'll figure that stuff out, and it'll get lighter and it'll get better. But yeah, there's all sorts of issues with it. I don't think the whole thing is as green as people think it is. It's certainly not a completely green enterprise. It's not. I wouldn't call it renewable. And I don't know that the pollution is down to zero on that, right? What it takes in emissions to make those things is pretty daunting. But
the lithium mining.
Yeah, there's a reason that there's not like lithium mines in developed
switch
countries.
Back to coal power cars. You have to hire a little man in like your trunk that shovels coal into the fire.
Hey Todd, Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas. Yeah, so I think that one of the next things that we're waiting to do, I talked to you guys a little bit when we got the engine, when we got the crate engine, that I bought it from Speedway Motors with the intention of using the credits that I would get from buying the engine to buy a lot of stuff from them for the IROC. And I found out quite horrifically that while I have lots of points with them now, I think I have $450 worth of discounts with them. I found out when I went to go buy some stuff that I can only use $40 at a time of the discount.
That's how they get you.
That is how they get us. And I've got to use them within a year. So that means I've got to make like 11 separate purchases. And then I've got to do the math to figure out making a purchase that's just big enough to get free shipping, but not so big that I waste a percentage of money off. But we are going to end up getting new carpets, front and rear carpets for the IROC, and a new headliner. We're going to get that for you. Right. That's something I would like to get done in the winter time. While that's a good inside project, I think. Yeah, we don't have to be outside for that one, so that's something we can do on the inside. Same thing with the getting your dash sort of back together too.
They tried to make artificial. Okay, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I heard that they did try to do that. I'm not a big fan of artificial V8 sounds. It's kind of lame. My understanding is that there's sort of a mandate that you have to make an EV make some sort of noise, at least in reverse, and possibly at low speeds, because it's a pedestrian thing, right? They want to make sure that people around can actually hear the car and be alerted to it. I think most of them sound like a UFO. They just sound really creepy. Yeah, but somehow I think like making a fake V8 sound is even worse. It just makes me think of like a kid putting like baseball cards in the spokes of his bike and trying to make it sound like a motorcycle. It isn't working. I don't want to do it.
And it's like, if you're trying to pose as like a big green thing, then why do you have to still like rely on the sound that the gas one makes?
Yeah, it's like make up your mind.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like either hug the tree or don't. But trying to straddle both of them seems like it's kind of mixed up. But yeah, I think most of those car companies probably jumped in a little too hard with both feet on the electric thing too quick. I don't know that the rest of the buying market is there yet, because the range is still not there on most of these electric cars. And if you're like outside the city, like where we are, we're only 20 minutes outside of Worcester, which is like the second biggest city in New England. So we're not, I mean, even though we're kind of in a farmy town and sort of a rural town,
kind of.
We're not in the sticks overall, right? We're still close to highways and all that jazz. There's not a whole lot of charging stations around. There's not a whole lot of rapid charging stations around. There are some, we can go out and find them, but there's not tons.
The one at the school.
That's not a rapid charger. That's a.
I don't know how that's.
It's a slow one.
What about Macy's?
Yeah, that's the only big chargers, the only rapid chargers around. So there are around, but you got to dig them up and find them. It's not like it's way easier to find a gas station. I can tell you that.
How long does it take to charge them?
It depends on what you're paying for, is my understanding, as to whether you're paying for the higher rate of charge or the lower rate of charge.
That's probably why they have.
And
the
it depends on how
school.
far down you are, but I mean, it could be anywhere from like a half an hour to a couple of hours,
Jeez.
depending on how far you need to
Hold up,
charge.
let me charge my car real quick.
Yeah, that's like, I think, for day to day, like for what I drive, doing back and forth to work every day, I would have zero problem with that on a week to week basis. An electric would work fine for me, and I'd feel better about it, given that, it's a truck. I wouldn't have to fill up my gas tank every week. It'd be nice, actually. But that's the only vehicle that we use for long distance travel too. And so if we do have to take a trip that's going to be, 500 miles,
That'd be a problem.
now you got to suddenly like really map out where your stop is going to be to recharge the car and make sure that there's plenty of charging available and set time aside to charge up. It's not that it's impossible. It's not even that it's really desperately inconvenient, but it's a hell of a lot less convenient than gas right now. And I just don't think everybody's ready to do that yet.
I still think our best bet is solar. I mean, we don't have the tech to do that right now, but solar eventually. The sun is always going to be there. I mean, if it's not, then that's a bigger problem.
Sorry, I had to plug the laptop in. I forgot that when we were messing around with the mics, I had to unplug the power cord, and that was going to be a problem soon. So. Tim, what's up?
Isn't that Robin?
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. It's a nice crowd turning out to see us for a little live. And I apologize that we don't have a big live video going on this week. Hopefully we'll have something a big recorded video this week. Hopefully we'll have something next week. If we don't have a pre-recorded, episode next week from us doing something this weekend, then I'm going to actually put together another video. So we'll have a video one way or another for next week. Me having the week off is helpful because I can have some time to edit. It takes a bunch of time to edit these things together. Believe it or not, I am not a pro on this. So it takes me a while. Jeremy, I missed what's going on with the engines. Oh, sorry, Jeremy, you don't turn it on time. You don't get the information. That's the way it works. No. So the 305, I think we've determined, at least from what we can find, can be salvaged. So that's getting tucked in the back corner. And in the background, we'll definitely bring that back to life and rebuild it over time. But in the meanwhile, we are still planning on taking the 350 out of Chevelle. That's going to happen in the next week to week and a half while I'm off on holiday break. So we'll take that 350 out of the Chevelle. We're going to freshen that up. It would, as little as we can possibly get away with. We will do a leak down test. And then we're going to plug that into the IROC. And it's going to go in as just a straight, simple carb motor. So we're going to bypass the ECM and the IROC, which means doing a couple of things that are going to be a pain in the neck. From the sleuthing on the internet that I've done so far, I think we're going to be okay with all the gauges. I think all of those will work. I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to do is pull the gas tank and put in a manual pump. But I don't think that's the end of the world. So, so that's the quick rundown of what's going on with the engines right now. Tim, I always miss the lives, but I tune into the videos. Well, Tim, I'm glad you got a chance to be here for a live. And like, if you guys have opinions on when we do lives, when we should do them, I'm all ears too. We kind of picked these Friday nights in the evening in the hopes that like a little bit later would mean more folks in like Western time zones would be able to join in because it would be after work and all that stuff. But I have no idea whether that's right. We're just kind of, picking times to try to make things work. But I enjoy doing the lives. I like being able to talk with you guys and be able to answer the questions. So I think we're both happy to do them.
Yeah.
So we're open to when we do them. I wouldn't mind doing them as like a bonus thing either. I don't want to always do them as a replacement for the regular episode. It'd be nice to just do them randomly on like a Wednesday or something sometimes. M&T says, looking forward to the 350 build. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the 350 build too. I think that's going to be cool when we put that together. kind of excited to be able to take this thing out and to see what's doing with it. Really just hoping that it doesn't have big problems with compression. I'm just hoping we're not losing a lot of compression when we do the leak down test. So if we get a good clean bill of health on that one, then I'll be okay. And we'll just kind of scooch along. The worst case scenario, I think, is that we're losing a huge percentage on one or more of the cylinders, and then that just means we probably have to re-ring it and then take a look at valve jobs and stuff like that. But it won't be a nightmare, I hope.
I do need Camaro gear.
Yeah, you do. You need to get you like one of those like Smokey and the Bandit style, like like early 80s, late 70s jackets with a Camaro emblem on it. I think that's what we need to go after for you. And the righteous mullet. You're kind of working on the mullet now.
Yeah.
You got this going. So you're not too far off.
I'm okay with the modern mullets. The old ones. Oh, no. It was like a little.
We're getting you there. We're getting you there.
Some said the build is my present for Christmas. I'd say, if anything, it's more of a birthday present since it's for when I can drive.
Yeah, probably more akin to that. Yeah, we didn't really think of it as a present. So the reality was, for those who missed the story, Declan's sister, when she turned 16 and got a car, we just got her a car. She had a job that I didn't want to keep on driving her back and forth to. Oh, Axel, thank you very much for donating. You guys really don't need to donate, but it's awesome when you do. So really, thank you. That's awesome. We appreciate it. Yeah, when she turned 16 and a half and got her license, we went out and bought her a car, and it was just like it's like a 2012 Nissan Rogue. It's not a very special car. It's not elegant, but it gets her around to where she goes. It looks like a mom car. And so what is about a year ago now, right? Because wasn't it like around this time last year that we started talking about this?
Yeah.
And I came to Declan and I was like, you're like beating on the corner of turning around and getting your license. And so when that happens, you got 1 of 2 ways to go. We can either get you like whatever used car we can throw down with when you get your license, and it's not going to be anything fun. Or we can start looking around now for a car that is maybe cooler and would be a project car. And so you thought about it for a little bit.
Yeah. And then when I went to Oliver's house, we were driving back and we saw an old, like, I think it was a Camaro.
Oh, no, you're skipping ahead because you jumped in and you were like, yeah, let's get a project car. And I was like, okay, what?
Oh, yeah. I thought about it for a while, and I thought it was, I was thinking of a Jeep, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then I went to Oliver's house, and then we saw that old car, and I was like, oh, that thing looks cool. And then you're like, that's on the table. I was like, that's on the table? Oh, why are we talking about Jeeps then?
So we like, at first he was like, I don't know, maybe like an old Jeep. And I was like, okay. And like, I don't know anything about Jeeps. So I started looking around, and man, the Jeeps were a nightmare. They're like, they were stupid expensive for what they were.
They're kind of stupid looking too.
Yeah, and they were shot to hell. And I was like, well, at least the bodies are like, no compound curves, so the body work should be pretty easy.
Yeah, See, Oliver remembers when I wanted to.
And so we were looking at them, and I was looking at them in the background, and then I was driving home from a friend's house, and we passed I think it was a 3rd gen Camaro or Firebird. I think it was one of these.
I remember the emblem was like the Camaro one.
Yeah,
because I didn't know what it was.
And Declan was like, "Oh, I like that car." I'm like, "You do?" Because like those are on the table, and you were like, "What?"
What?
So yeah, we then we went to car shows in the early part of the summer to just sort of confirm the kind of cars that he liked, and thankfully you landed on a range that was affordable, and you
found one, and it was the first one that we saw too.
It was, in fact. And what did I say to you when we were driving over to see this car?
I don't even remember.
You don't remember what I said to you on the way over?
Didn't you say something like, "Don't get like disappointed if it's too bad" or something?
Yeah, don't get your hopes up.
Don't get your hopes up.
I don't have high hopes for this car. I think it's probably going to be a pile. And it wasn't. Well, it was, but in fairness, I knew that motor was gone. When it was running and we heard it running there, it was making that noise, and I knew it.
But the body.
But I don't have enough experience with engines with knocking rods to be able to confidently say, like, I know exactly what that is. But I knew that sound wasn't good, and I knew it was deep in the motor. So I knew it wasn't just low oil. So I knew we were going to end up having to do something pretty serious. I was hoping it wasn't what it was, but I kind of knew it was. So, but the body on this thing is so good.
Yeah.
I
mean, from what I've been told by you, it's not common.
No, it's not. And we need to show you some rotted ones so you can see. Oh my gosh, I'm not a Jeep fan. They can keep their ducks. Yeah, I am not a fan of the duck thing.
The rubber ducks.
The rubber ducks.
I
don't know where the hell that came from.
Probably TikTok.
But yeah, I am not a fan of that. And I do have a little internal eye roll that goes on when I pass a Jeep on the road, and it's got like 60 rubber ducks on the dashboard. Like, give me a break.
I'd have like 2, and then I'd be like, okay, you can go in the glove compartment or like a cardboard box in the garage.
Yeah,
I'm done with them. I'd keep like the first one and the second one, and then the rest are unimportant.
Yeah. Oh, Jay says, just work on the IROC already.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Wait, they're right. We should just do that.
We should just we'll just spin this around, and we'll just start like banging hammers into the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the ducks are funny just because stupid it is. Yeah, it is funny. I think it's dumb. I think it's awesome that you has the carbug duck one's IROC. Yeah, actually. Thanks.
That was the point of the YouTube channel. We didn't think that people would actually watch it.
Yeah, no, we didn't. And I mean, I don't know that we this seems to be a lot of like sort of new folks beyond the last live. So, but for sure, we did not expect to have this many people watching us. So when we did this, I figured for sure this was going to be that we were going to get like 12 or 24 views, and they would all be family, and maybe accidentally someone who stumbled across the channel. And so when we started seeing the views piling up and started seeing the subscribers pile up, and we had one video and we had people subscribing.
Is there a way to see who our first subscriber was? Besides
I don't
us?
know, actually.
Check the studio.
I'll have to look and try to figure that out. Find out who the earliest subscribers were. But I think we kind of know like who was around like mostly from the beginning. But it was definitely
the guy
a big shock, and like the channel took off like fast. I mean, we're at like 3,300 subscribers now, which I mean in YouTube terms is like it's pretty small. But like it's approximately 3,350 more, 3,250 more than I ever expected us to have. And it came out of nowhere. I mean, the first couple of weeks that we were running it, I remember like looking at my phone a couple of times a day on the YouTube Studio app and like seeing the subscribers jump up by like 100 at a time. And I was like, how is this happening? Where are people seeing this? And like, how did he even know? So it is kind of a shock to the system still that we had this many people tuning in. I'm really, really appreciative for it, but mostly we did this so we would have it as a keepsake, so that I would be able to go back and look at it, and that so someday when he's going to appreciate it, he'll be able to go back and look at it too.
Yeah, and then cry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, put on the James Blunt Monster song and we just weep openly. Yeah. I missed my 89 IROC. It had 305 HL motor and was 4-bell carbureted. Would outrun the 305. Yeah, the TBI is not awesome. So the TBI is the throttle body injection instead of the tune port injection, which is what you have. Throttle body injection is like it looks like a carburetor, and it's a little less efficient. So yeah, those aren't as good. The TPI is great for torque. So I kind of want to get yours up and running because it would be great for just running around the street because the TPI is torquey, and that's what you sort of look for when you're cruising around. Just keep up the content. You'll get where you want to be. Yeah, thanks, Glendale. I think we're trying to keep up with the content. It's a little rough in the wintertime, but we do want to try to keep up and put stuff in. And we're always open to suggestions too, in terms of if there's stuff that you guys want to see. If we can pull it off, we will. If you want to see us, put a new $5,000 rear end on the back of the car, that's probably not a suggestion that I can make happen. But if there's specific angles that you want to see us do or talk about, we're happy to take suggestions, because sometimes it gets a little bit stuck. Way too much time watching car YouTube. Yeah, I spend way too much time watching car YouTube too. That is generally my Friday nights. So you
every night.
Yeah, you guys are screwing me up right now, because I should be upstairs watching Stay Tuned with Tony Angelo and Vice Grip Garage and Pole Barn Garage and HH Wheels and a bunch of others that have probably dropped by now. So
and I got like Donut.
Yeah, you like Donut. I'm not a big Donut fan. I don't go for that, but not because I don't like them, just because they don't fit. I probably got about a dozen channels that I watch on a very, very regular basis. And then there's a bunch more that I'll watch the videos sometimes when I get a chance to. But yeah, I get bogged down in it and watch a ton of it. It doesn't help that most of the channels seem to be like hour-long episodes, hour and a half. I mean, Derek on Vice Grip sometimes runs like 3-hour episodes, and I sit there like a moron and just watch them. I mean, I'm usually doing something else while I'm watching them, but
what was
still
that video
them.
where the guy who was the guy that like destroyed the Ferrari? Who's that guy?
Oh, Whistling Diesel.
Yeah, Whistling Diesel.
Yeah,
I like him.
Yeah.
He's chaotic.
Yeah, he is. He's chaos.
It kind of hurt to watch that video.
Yeah.
It did hurt to watch the video.
I searched IROC build and came across your video when you first got the car home and were just pressure washing and cleaning the hell out of it. Foul interior. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people found it, is just sort of like searching around, looking for IROC stuff, and I came across ours. I think that was just pure dumb luck. I had no idea that there was a market for IROC, or that there was a lot of people out there looking for content on IROC. I now realize they are, because as I start to look for IROC content, there's not a ton of it out there actually. So I can understand how people were looking for it and found it. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Sergeant Commander guy, telling us we have a winning formula. I appreciate that. Yeah. And yes, Glendale, I watched Derek. Yeah, Derek is probably my favorite. That's my go-to. I think that,
in case you couldn't tell, when he glazes him in the videos.
It took me a while to warm up to Derek, because the whole thing of like his calling spark plugs sparkulators and fuel make it happeners and all that stuff, it sort of rubbed me the wrong way. But after watching enough of his videos, I realized that it's not really shtick. That's pretty much who he is, and he's a pretty genuine guy on camera. So yeah, but he's the sort of gold star.
No, you met him in person,
and we have met him in person now. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But an extremely busy guy. That's a guy who's, oh my God, he's working nonstop. I mean, that guy's always hauling. Have I seen Derek's views in terms of how many views he gets per video? Yeah, Derek's in rarefied air. In comparison with us, we're not in the same league there. We're getting, I think, probably 0.5% of the views that he normally gets on his videos, or somewhere thereabouts, maybe less. Yeah, but he's been doing it for a long time, and he really puts out very, very strong content, and he has been for a long time. So it's not really surprising that he's been as successful as he is. He's been really, really plugging away and really, really working hard. You can't really knock that guy.
We might get more though when I can actually drive, or like at
once we can start doing donuts in your car, once we can start doing the burnouts. So I realized that like we need more burnout videos, and that's coming when we put the crate engine in the Chevelle, because I can't really do a burnout in the Chevelle right now. It really won't do it. Like I could, but we'd have to I'd have to coat the front driveway in Crisco, and like we'd really have to do some work getting the tires spinning, because this motor in this car is a pooch, and the rear end is really a tall gear. It's a 256 gear set.
Don't insult the engine. It's going to mine.
But this car's a lot heavier than yours.
Oh, right, because it's basically like solid.
Yeah. So this car just does not want to do even a one-wheel peel, the Chevelle. But once we get the 383 in there, my guess is that we're probably talking about 2 to 2.5 times the horsepower that this thing has. Will be going into it. So it will absolutely be able to spin the tires, and we'll be doing that. And your car has a posi. And for sure, when we get that running, I'm doing peel outs in that car. So those are coming. We're going to have to get the suction cup GoPro mount so we can get them right on the wheel, so we can get the smoke coming off the tire. That's going to happen.
Might get cruise videos.
Yeah, I like to do that. I like to do some more cruising video. I do cars is a great one. Tears down an engine every week. Oh yeah, I'll have to check out that one too. I actually love long videos, but yeah, my wife will tell me I'm watching them every night as well. Yeah, yeah, that's the problem. Nobody else understands us, Axel, when we're watching these car videos. They're important. We can get all kinds of flack, but I mean, what else am I going to be doing? I'm going to be watching reruns of some stupid show otherwise. But in all honesty, most of the time when I'm watching the car videos, I am doing something else. I do almost all the editing for this channel. Almost all of these video editings gets happen while I'm watching something else. Because it takes me hours to do it. And if I'm just focusing on just doing this, I'll go mental. So there's almost always somebody's video on in the background while I'm editing these. Watch Vice Grip's vid of the white 89. He is going. Get more views. Oh, yeah. I did see that one, I think. And yes, I'm pretty sure I have seen that one, Todd. I think I've seen that white 89 that he got going. And that was a good video. Any real garage wrenching DIYer knows YouTube is where we share what we know. And that we're not, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's amazing now how much stuff is out there on YouTube. And how much is there available in the video. This is one of those like old man, you don't know how good you have it things, but mostly I'm just jealous because when I was his age and trying to get my old Chevelle running, I mean, the internet was around, but it wasn't populated like it is now. So we didn't have the information sitting there. And you wouldn't find out the stuff that you can find out now. So the only way you found that stuff out was by reading copious amounts of books, reading crap loads of magazines. And the only way you could find like cool new products was looking at ads in the back of magazines. So it was often a slow and prodding process to figure things out. Or talking to guys at car shows and stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of those guys were old timers and didn't know new stuff either. So it was always hard, but it's a lot easier to find this stuff out now, and it's a lot easier to see it. Jay says, so what's your future plans for the IROC? Obviously, most of us are here for that beautiful IROC. I'm sure you even see that by your view count. Yeah, definitely see that by the view count. Every time we do something that's on the Chevelle, it's like everybody just, they tune right out and they don't watch it.
The people that you have are from the IROC video.
We do. I get it. We know our
people.
core audience. And so at some point when Declan drives off into the sunset, he's going to take all of you with him, and I'm just going to be stuck there with the Chevelle.
I'm going to be like, oh, guys, move over here now.
No, so the plan with the IROC, there's probably short-term and long-term, right? Like short-term is Declan is going to be eligible for his learner's permit on February 5th.
My birthday.
So once he gets his learner's permit, we need to start taking him driving. The goal is to make sure that the car is running and driving and registerable and inspectable, because in Massachusetts you need an inspection sticker, by the time he's eligible for his driver's license, which would be August 5th. Right? August 5th.
Yeah, that's my
that's the 6 months. Yeah. So that's when I want it done for sure, no questions asked. But my goal is to actually have it ready sometime in April. I would love to have the car ready to drive in April, because I'd love for him to be able to drive it on his permit and drive it through the summer on his permit. So that's our first goal, is to get it running. And so once we get the engine out of the Chevelle and work on that, make sure that we get that cleaned up and we feel good about it. Then we will throw that into the IROC. That's what's going to take the longest. I am 100% sure. Getting the thing actually running and driving, all systems operating once it's in here is going to be the biggest pain in the neck, but you guys will be along for that ride. And that's what's going to be consuming a lot of our time. So as slow and as plodding as some of these episodes might be over the next several weeks, once the weather starts to warm up and we start threatening to get the engine into the IROC, things are going to pick up. And we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, and it's going to be madness for sure. But then, I mean, we'll get it running and driving and operable. And then it's a longer term project, right? To make sure that we eventually we want to get it painted.
Well, that answers somebody's question.
Oh, somebody asked it.
Bundy.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, we do plan on doing that. So we will be painting the car at some point. My brother-in-law, Declan's uncle, owns a body shop. He actually painted my Mustang for me when I had that. And so our plan is we'll try to do all the prep work we can on this car, but then we'll bring it to him and he'll spray this. That's the hope at some point.
About color, pretty sure it's staying red.
Oh yeah, it's staying the same red. This would just be an overspray. We're gonna spray it over the same color, same GM bright red. That's the plan. No sense in changing it, right? That's kind of sacrilege. You will get more views and just stay positive and always keep putting it forward. Yeah, we're good with the views. Like, it was nice to see the channel growing like crazy, but I'm not desperate for it. I mean, if it grows bigger, great, but we're not going to break our necks. We're just going to keep on doing the content that we can do. Tell Declan about Chilton and Haynes manuals. Actually, so we have more than that. We actually bought, they're upstairs, so they don't get wrecked in the garage. But we do have the full manual set for this car.
Big things?
Yeah, we have bought the full manual set. I can't remember where I got it. If you guys are interested in it, I can sort of, if any of you guys are IROC guys, I can pick out what it was. I bought them from a special bookstore online that had them. They were not inexpensive, but it's like the full set of shop manuals, assembly manuals and shop manuals for the car. So those are way better than, in my opinion, what Chiltons are now. Chiltons were great when we didn't have the internet, but now that we have the internet, I'd much rather look for stuff on the internet than Chiltons. So that's just my 2 cents.
Does your state inspection include emissions?
Oh, yeah. So
Probably.
third gen Camaro guy. No, they don't. So no, in Massachusetts, if your car is 15 years old or more, then it is simply a safety inspection. Now, it really depends on where you bring your car to and how diligent they are at looking at it. But generally speaking, they will look to make sure you still have catalytic converters and to make sure that you haven't crazily modified the car. But it's just a safety inspection. So the car technically doesn't have to run except to pull it into the booth. So they'll just do, lights and seat belts and wheel bearings and, shake the wheels around and all that stuff. But they're not going to put the sniffer on it. So we don't have to worry about emissions. And I don't actually mind the safety inspections. I mean, honestly, when you see what can drive around on the road when you don't do safety inspections, it's not a bad idea. They're not really too restrictive. So it's just making sure your wheels aren't going to fall off and that the car body still has some integrity to it. Any future build plans, other cars, trucks, or anything like that? Man, I'd like to, Jed. Like right now, I kind of feel like my head's overwhelmed with what we have going on at the moment because there's like a bit of a Tetris game going on here, right? I got a disassembled 305 in that basement. I've got a crate motor in that basement. I've got the 350 that has to come out of this and go into this. Then that crate motor has to go into this. My head's full up at the moment with the projects that we got going on at the moment. In terms of projects that I would like to do, I wouldn't mind at some point if we were able to find like a cheap small truck or something like that for a winter car for Declan maybe. And that would be kind of interesting for us to do. It's not really high on my list of like, got to do that. I would really like to get a shoebox Chevy. A Tri-5 Chevy would be fun. But those are just getting pricier and pricier. So unless Dan from DD Speed Shop wants to toss me one of his from Canada, I don't know if that's going to happen. When will you put the new motor in the Chevelle? So Brian, that's a good question. That's kind of right now it's taken back seat to what I'm going to do with the IROC, because I would like to get the 350 into the IROC just to clear out space. So the 350 is going to sit in this garage, like pretty much where we're sitting right now, while we work on it and get ready to put it in. Then we're going to have to mate it up with the transmission and get it into the IROC. If I can get that done, that'll free that space up, and then I can worry about getting the crate motor into the Chevelle. So that's my current thinking. My hope is to have it done so that I can be driving the Chevelle again by beginning of April. That's always sort of my end goal. And if anybody's wondering why I picked like that April timeframe, generally speaking, they salt the roads around here. So they've already started doing it. So I officially had the Chevelle off the road, I think like 3 weeks ago, because I saw the salt trucks out for the first time. And they go nuts here when they salt the roads. They just blanket everything in salt to keep the roads from freezing up. And once that happens, the roads get caked in salt. And so anytime you drive your car out there, the salt is going to get kicked up and clean to the bottom of the car. So cars are off the road until that salt is gone. And the salt's usually not gone until we get a couple of good rains without temperatures dropping below freezing. So that's usually April. So that's when I'm expecting things will sort of pick back up again and when I'd like to have this running. But I think getting the crate motor back in the Chevelle is going to be a lot easier and simpler than what it's going to take to get the IROC going. Maui blue, yeah, the Maui blue is pretty cool, Tim. Yeah, I do like the blue, but
is that like the light blue one?
Yeah, this is already the red, so I can't go back on that one. Sure, your son, forgot his name, Declan, is going to probably want to get aftermarket lights front and back or just original. I think we'll probably we may do the original. That kind of depends. I'm thinking about that. So this has got the sealed beam sort of box lights. And I know Holley makes retro brights, and there's a couple other companies out there. There's a company that I was trying to get some sponsorship with here. They haven't gotten back to me. Maybe you guys can hammer them. It's called Vintage Car LEDs. I've actually got some of their stuff on my Chevelle. But they make these LED powered lights as well, but they're specially made with the right reflectors so that you don't blind people. So they're powerful, but they're not the obnoxious LEDs. And I've thought about putting those on your car, just because they'll be brighter and easier to see. The headlights. Okay. And we can do LEDs in the rear. The only thing with the LEDs in the rear is sometimes you're running into issues with the blinkers and stuff. The LEDs don't run enough power to trip the blinkers. So sometimes you're running into issues with that. I mean, you can get around it, but F4 Easy 2 saying dump Demon Carbs and go Holley. So the Demon Carb is not a problem. And the Demon Carb is made by Holley. So in fact, I bought that Demon Carb from the Holley website. So they own them, they make them. There's actually no problem with those Demon Carbs. They're pretty basic. And they run great. It's running fine. I believe that the issue that I'm having with this and the reason why things are running rich is not the carb. I believe it's the engine itself. And I think part of that is because of how much oil is seeping into here. So I think that's kind of running at part of the challenge. So I think once we get some of that stuff cleaned up, it'll be easier to dial this in. It could also be that, we might have a timing chain that's slapping around in there too. This car's probably got 60, 70,000 miles on this engine. It probably needs some addressing. So that'll be one of the things that we take a peek at too. But I don't think there's actually anything wrong with the carb. It's a brand new one. Have you thought about taking the Chevelle to the drag strip after you get it all done? Maybe, Lenny. I think I would definitely wait until I got the rear end replaced. So the rear end right now is just a 256 with an open diff. So that's it's fragile. And it's already going to be sketchy to drive it with the 450 horse 383 that's going to go into it. I do have hopes that next summer I'll be able to swap that out with like a Ford 9-inch rear end with something a little bit beefier and a posi. So maybe once we get that done, I think about the drag strip. But we do have Epping Dragway in New Hampshire, which is just a couple hours away from us. So that would be fun. F4Easy likes your shirt.
How could he not?
Yeah.
Christmas dolphins.
And Axel asks, so is the salt a large reason why cars up north rust more than the snow itself? Oh yeah, the snow doesn't rust things out. The snow is not actually really the issue. I mean, moisture is always a problem. But the two biggest things that we have a problem with is the salting of the roads and the salt air, in our case, because we're coastal. So if you're near the ocean, the salt air and the salt on the roads are going to kill you. Because what happens is that salt doesn't go anywhere when it's on the road. During the dead of winter, when it gets real cold here and things just haven't thawed out, the roads will literally be like chalk white. Everything's gone off the road. There's no snow. The roads are just chalk white from having a thick layer of salt on them. And then what happens is you get a little bit of rain or a little bit of damp, that gets wet, and then your tires and other people's tires just kick it up on the underside of your car. So if you don't religiously get your car washed like once a week, here with the undercarriage wash, yeah, the cars just rot out. It's gotten much, much better with cars in the last like 10, 15 years because they do all sorts of rust preventatives to the materials before they even assemble them. But yeah, that's still ultimately why we have the rust and why I won't drive this sucker once they start salting the roads. It's just not worth it. Do you have any concern that the crate engine will overpower the transmission in the Chevelle? Yep. I do. That's the simple answer. I have a little bit of concern about that. It's part of the reason why I'm not going to beat the hell out of it, right? So I just will have to take it easy and just go not go absolutely nuts on it. But I think it's controllable, right? It's not like I'm going to be doing neutral drops in the thing, so I think we'll be okay. You ever think about the health of the trans? Maybe an idea to put a fluid sample and send it in the test. Yeah, a fluid sample might not be a bad idea. I actually didn't think about doing the fluid sample, Jay. That's not a bad idea. I did think about what it would cost to sort of get the thing, either of the transes checked out. The trans and the Chevelle I'm pretty good with. Like that one I've been driving around a bunch, so I know that's okay. I have no real issues with it. We know that your transmission functions because we ran it through the gears, and it will move in all of those gears, but we haven't driven it. So I don't know how smooth it shifts. I don't know if it hangs up. I don't know if it slips. I think it's probably okay. The big hazard with it is, do we spend a bunch of money to have somebody look at it for us? I'll ask around to some shops, find out what it would cost to have them look at it once it's pulled out of the car already. You know, if it's $100 to have somebody look at it, maybe it's worth it. But you know, if it's a few $100 to have them look at it, we could spend a few $100 on carpet and roll our dice with the transmission, because the reality is, if we're gonna have to do something to the transmission, we're gonna have to do it one way or another. So all that would do is just save us from having to pull it back out again, which is a little bit of work. But so that's kind of where I'm sitting now. But getting the fluid tested, not a bad idea. So I'll look into that and see if I can get that, because if I can sort of figure that out with the fluid test, that makes sense. What they do is you can get the transmission fluid, you get a sample of it, and you can send it off and have it analyzed, and they can figure out by the metals that are, or the material that's in the fluid, whether your clutches are worn or whether you're losing material in the engine, so you know how healthy the transmission should be. What carb does Blueprint recommend for your setup? Not downplaying Demon, just going off of what I heard. Oh, okay, good question. So to clarify, the Demon is on the old 350. So the old 350 that's in the Chevelle has a Demon on it now because it's on there replacing the Quadrajet that was on there originally. The Quadrajet that was on there originally was not performing well. It really needed to be completely gone over. And I'm not a Quadrajet guy. And it was not an old Quadrajet. It was like a newer, like truck style Quadrajet. So I yanked that off there and put the Demon on there because it came recommended as a good street carb. And it is, and it works fine in this car. The crate motor came with a carburetor, and that is a Holley 4-valve. So yeah, that's completely different thing. You guys ever thought about doing a resto digital dash cluster versus the analog in the IROC? Yes, I've thought about it briefly. Maybe. I think that's a cost thing. So I think that's what this comes down to in a lot of ways. That gets difficult is how much this crap costs. So getting a digital gauge cluster, I got one for the Chevelle. So I have a Dakota Digital dash cluster that I'm going to be putting into this. I've been waiting to put it in until the crate motor goes in, so that when I install it, 0 on the mileage indicator on the odometer, and the dash cluster will be 0 miles on the motor. So I'm going to put that in when the engine goes in. That thing's like $1,000. I think it's worse for the Camaro dash. And then you got a question like, what does that really get you? So yeah, maybe someday, but we don't need it right now. Your cluster works fine. So I think we're trying to focus now on just changing the things that we have to change and putting in the things that we don't have, as opposed to like upgrades right now. Um, 700 R4 is best for the 383. Yeah, the 383 is going to have to deal with my Turbo Hydromatic 350 right now. So that's what it's got in it. That's what it's going to deal with for now. And honestly, that trans is probably the last thing on the list on the driveline to change out. The rear end will change out before that, because I think the 350 will hold up. Why don't you put a big block into that Chevelle? Have you priced big blocks, Todd? The reason why the big block is not going in the Chevelle is because that same blueprint crate motor in a mild big block would have easily cost me twice as much, more than twice as much to put that in. And then I would have had to change a bunch more, right? So we would have had to change, I would have had to change my front end suspension. I would have definitely had to change the transmission. At that point, I would have not felt good about keeping the 350 in there with a big block and big block power. It would have been way too much crap to change. It's very expensive to put a big block in. If you've got one, cool, more power to you. I don't hate on big blocks. They're great. I would have loved to put one in. Just too rich for my blood. Yeah. Yeah, Declan does need a cup of coffee.
I've yawned like 15 times.
Yeah, I think we're kind of closing in on done. I think this actually might be hypothermia that's setting in, because it's starting to feel a little bit colder in this room. So I do think we're probably going to end up wrapping up pretty shortly here, so that we can tie things off. Then you'd have an LS6 Chevelle clone. Yeah, true. Like if I put a 454 in here, it would be an LS6 clone. But realistically speaking, the 383 that I'm going to put in here makes the same power as that 454 did from the factory. So I'm feeling pretty good about the 383 going in here. So it's going to be pretty sweet. It's going to be all the power I need. I'm really just driving this thing around the street. So I just care about this thing giving me enough get up and go to, peel out of the local cruise night. That's all I really need to do. All right, guys. Well, Merry Christmas. Thanks for tuning in and watching us. Thanks for spending time with us. We really, really appreciate you guys tuning in and taking an interest in all this shenanigans that we're doing and tuning in every week and bearing with us. Apologies for the late launches the last few weeks. We've had some technical challenges getting things out, but we really, really do appreciate you watching and shopping. So we appreciate you guys buying some of the gear that we've had on too. We really do appreciate that. And we try to have some stuff out there for you. So we will see you hopefully next week. But in the meantime, wishing all of you guys a very Merry Christmas or whatever holiday it is that you're celebrating. And please enjoy your time off with your family. Happy holidays, guys. Have a good one.